All right, everybody, guess what time it is? It's 2 o'clock. Welcome back to 2 p.m. Sales Espresso Shot. I'm glad to be back this week with you guys. I was speaking to the mortgage bankers of Florida last week, and I just got back from Denver, Colorado, with the Acuma annual conference. For those of y'all that don't know, that are on the call today, Acuma is the American Credit Union Mortgage Association. It's a great organization. Got a chance to meet some really cool people. I actually got a chance to meet some of the folks that have been coming on this call with me. So that was also really awesome. I thoroughly enjoyed it. But if you are new here, welcome. We are going to be tackling dealing with challenging people today. And the goal here is, as always, to talk about this in 15 minutes or less, while also giving you, at the same time, some takeaways that you could use immediately when we end the call, in case you've got some real turds in your life that you need to deal with. So let's go ahead and dive right in. Dealing with challenging people. Listen, we got all kinds of personalities to work with, and we've got to be able to work with them peaceably, right? Confidence and professionalism. But first, that's me right there. There I am. If I'm not connected with you already, please scan that QR code and connect with me. I'd love to hear from you. And if you have any feedback, any topics you'd like me to cover, please let me know. But as always, welcome. All right. Why workplace conflict management matters? Well, it's so we don't kill each other. That's why it matters. But there's actually a really high cost of unresolved conflict. All right. And to be clear, I am a big fan of workplace conflict. Anybody on the call knows me. Yes, I don't back down from most conflict, but guess what? Healthy conflict is a good thing. It has to happen. And that often is a result of differing views, differing personalities, all that kind of stuff. And we have to address it. We cannot leave it unresolved because it's going to damage all kinds of things, right? It's going to hurt our productivity. It's going to increase our turnover. It's going to hurt our morale. It's going to lead to a lot of resentment. And this is kind of where rumors and backroom talk, it all can originate here. We want to avoid that at all costs. All right. This is actually a really interesting fact. Studies show that employees spend up to 2.8 hours per week dealing with workplace conflict, costing organizations thousands. Now, this is referring to workplace conflict that is not healthy, of course. And that's just not going to work, guys. That's just not going to work. So we've got to learn to get along. All right, so that's what we're going to talk about today. Get you some strategies for dealing with challenging coworkers, challenging managers, and so on. All right, so we've got some common types of difficult people here. All right. And before I go into these, we've all run across these before. If you're on this call today and you are saying, Skip, I just don't have that many. I can't really think of any, in my office. Guess what that means? It means you're the difficult person. Okay. But we're not going to be pointing any fingers today, but we are going to be labeling folks. All right. It's going to be first. We got the complainer. We all know a complainer focuses on problems, just brings it up, constantly reinforcing that negative atmosphere, and really gives it kind of a crappy outlook, right? We got the know-it-all. Okay, full disclosure. I can be a little bit of a know-it-all sometimes, but I'm aware of it and I've worked on it. So, dismisses others' ideas and expertise. Will interrupt means the person who's always got their hand raised in the middle of a presentation or something like that when it's not supposed to be. I'm not talking about an open conversation here. Resist any kind of feedback or doing it some sort of different way. We all know somebody like that. Passive aggressive. To me, this is the one that really irritates me the most. But everyone's going to kind of have their own least favorite. Expresses resistance indirectly through missed deadlines, subtle sabotage, which is a real thing. That's just awful. And then withholding information rather than addressing concerns openly. Yeah, I think these are all pretty self-explanatory as to why they are negative traits for people to have. We also, of course, have the bully. Uses intimidation, public humiliation, or aggressive behavior to dominate interactions. This one gets attributed mostly to managers, but I have seen my fair share of coworker bullies. Now, fortunately, I've never really been the victim of that. But there have been times that I can think of very, very quickly that, someone has tried to do that to me. So yeah, they're out there. And the avoider refuses to engage with problems or conflicts, cancels meetings, ignores emails, all that kind of fun stuff. Basically, I don't want to deal with it. It'll be fine if we just skip over it. And guess what? The same problem usually rears its head days, weeks, months, or even years later, and it's exponentially worse. That's why the avoider got to go, but we also got to deal with them because you know what? They're not always going to be gone. All right, so we know our different types of personalities. How are we going to deal with them? Okay, well, here we go. Number one, stay calm and professional. Just always remember that someone else's behavior and their expression of emotions usually has more to do with them than you. That's easier said than done. I understand that, and that's not a novel concept, but it bears reminding that we've got to stay calm and professional. Whatever it takes, take deep breaths, speak slowly, all that kind of fun stuff. Any of y'all on here that have ever heard my Outpace talk, you know that the C, controlling emotions, this goes right into that. Separate the person from the problem. And this doubles down on what I just mentioned. The specific behavior always is or tends to be what we focus on. All right. Just because they have one of the traits that we mentioned previously, or they can be difficult to deal with in this thing, does not necessarily mean that they're a bad person. All jokes aside, okay? It just happens to be a trait that makes them a little difficult, does not make them a person of poor character, always. Uh, can, but not always. So, but we got to remember that we are professionals. We got to separate this problem. We got to work through it. Our job is to get solutions. Another one is to use active listening. This is one of the ones that I really like to do. And again, if you've heard my Outpace conversation, often I use for active listening. And this is where you hear more than what's just being said. You hear, excuse me, you hear how it's being said. You see the facial expressions, the body language, and you can read a little bit more into what's coming at you. All right, so that helps you understand where the other person's coming from and what they're feeling, so that you can sort through that as opposed to just using how your reaction comes up. Okay, setting clear boundaries. This one's very, very important as well. You've got to be sure that you can only let difficult people or their difficult traits go so far. Unfortunately, kind of like with everything else, if you let something run amok, it's going to go as far as you'll let it. Okay, so we've got to remember there is a certain degree that we're going to have to just deal with it, but at the same time, there is going to be a boundary, and that's different for every person, and that's different for every trait, and based also on your role at your organization. So being sure to set clear boundaries. And one of my favorites here is focusing on solutions. All right, redirect the conversation to say one of my favorite lines, for lack of a better term, is this conversation is not productive. Let's focus on getting the problem X resolved. And if we need to do a forensic review of what's taken place to lead up to here, after that's done, we can certainly do that. All right. But we got to focus on moving forward first. So it's really, really important that we focus on the solution. That honestly, that helps kind of push through some of those conflicting personality traits. All right. So navigating challenging coworkers. I mentioned earlier that we're going to talk about coworkers and managers. Avoiding office gossip and water cooler complaints, right? If you've got something that needs to be discussed, let's do it professionally. Let's do it, constructively. This is something that we've all seen at every organization that we have worked at, one degree or another. If it is left unchecked, it can completely destroy a workplace culture. And you'll start driving away top talent. You'll be spinning your wheels. You will never reach your full potential as an organization or, frankly, as a professional if this is what you focus on. I like this next one, using I statements. All right. This is actually a common thing whenever we are dealing with a highly energized and emotional situation, be it a coworker, a significant other, or a friend. We try to avoid using the you because that's like coming at you, right? We want to say instead of, "Yeah, you know what, you never meet your deadline. Say, I noticed you, or excuse me, I noticed that the deadline was missed again." This approach does reduce the other party becoming defensive. It's very, very hard to do this because our gut tells us to say, you never did this. This is why it's important to visualize interactions. I know I keep going back to this with my Outpace talk, but visualizing interactions is one of the key ways to effectively communicate. Okay. And collaboration on common goals. Whether we like it or not, we all have things in common with everybody. Sometimes maybe only one or two things, sometimes it could be a lot. But shared objectives and mutual benefits are something that should always, always, always be worked towards together. And discuss that. If we can get everybody going towards the same goal, working in the same direction, you'd be shocked how much unproductive conflict will become reduced. And of course, escalate when necessary. This goes back to establishing limits from the previous slide. If you can only take so much or it's becoming really, 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 a problem to deal with, escalate it. All right. Managing. I've got managers on this call. Are you a difficult manager? I bet we all are at some point in time. But let's see how we can manage our managers, all right? First of all, understanding their context. Okay. This goes back to empathy. This goes back to active listening on the previous slides. Understand where they are coming from. And if you're somebody that has the attitude of, well, I don't care, you're not going to talk to me like that, or you're not going to do this, or whatever, guess what? Then you have become the problem as opposed to them. Okay. It is up to us to try as much as we can to understand where they're coming from, their point of view, what they have to deal with. All right. And communicate proactively. This is a very broad statement. What does that really mean? Well, communication on a regular basis, clear, concise, and on point communication really helps prevent future problems. I mean, we could do books have been written on this particular line, but if we can put just a little bit of effort into being sure that we're clear, in how we communicate our ideas, our goals, even our feelings, then it really, really pays huge dividends. All right. Seek clarity on expectations. We're getting into Q4 here pretty soon. That means annual reviews are going to be right around the corner, and seek clarity on expectations. If you've got things that are going to be or that you're going to be held accountable for both in the short term and long term, be sure that you understand what it is. If they're ambiguous, ask questions. Get it down in writing. So that way it's clear, it's concise, it becomes a quantifiable objective as opposed to qualifiable, which is difficult to measure, or in some cases impossible to measure. All right. And again, document and escalate respectfully. If it becomes problematic, if you don't see an improvement, if it's truly a hindrance, or if it just simply oversteps points, A through M and goes all the way to Z immediately, yeah, you got to document it, you got to escalate it, whatever that means in your particular group. Okay. All right. So leading difficult employees, as we come down to our last 2 minutes, diagnose the root causes. What's really causing a problem with your employee? Is it something internal? Is it something external? Is it something that we can improve with education or training? Is it what is it? Diagnose it first. Again, specific feedback. Don't make big glaring general comments. Okay. Focus on the behaviors that impact the particular duties that this person has. Setting clear expectations. Another one, similar to what we had on the previous slide. We've got to be sure we have clear goals, expectations of duties, and be sure that they're measurable. That's something that I see a lot of times is that, again, things are qualifiable instead of quantifiable. We got to be able to measure it. And balance your support and consequences. You don't want to be, think of it in terms of parenting. I'm not belittling employees or by calling them children, even though I'm sure that it feels like that to managers quite often. But it kind of goes back to, you don't always want to get onto your kids and then never give them anything positive, right? because they're going to feel beaten down and downtrodden. We want to try and balance the encouragement and support and the positivity with the constructive criticism and of course consequences. All right, key takeaways real quick as we reach in our last 60 seconds. Stay professional. Don't make it personal, guys. Easier said than done, but you got to do it. Balance your empathy with those boundaries that we discussed earlier. Tell your approach to the person, not for general, departments or lumping everybody into one category, and know when you've got to escalate it. If you master these things, guys, you will be on the road to success. All right. Thank you so much. 2:15 on the dot. I will see you guys next Thursday. Thanks for coming on, and we'll talk to you all soon. Have a great day.